Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right, and happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. The last hour interview, in my humble opinion, was tremendous. An opportunity to learn from somebody who lived in Iran, somebody who understands America and is an absolute constitutionalist, somebody who loves liberty. I mean, he spends his whole time promoting liberty everywhere he goes. He's a filmmaker. He is so grateful to be in America, so grateful for the freedoms that we afford, and just delighted that his country has a chance to get rid of despots, people who don't want liberty, who have an agenda different from what the people of Iran would want. And so anyway, I commend Arash for his tremendous work, kind of highlighting some of that stuff for us, educating us about who's who, what's at stake, a lot of those things. I mean, just very, in my opinion, educational. Last hour, it'll be up on video soon, and you got to watch it. You got to click like or share or whatever you got to do to spread the word so people can really hear what he has to say. I want to go back to the headlines that I talked about on the last hour as well a little bit too. You know, Colorado Governor Jared Polis, I think is how you say his name, Democrat governor, he's considering committing the 9-year sentence of Tina Peters. She's the Republican county public clerk that was doing her best to deal with the election fraud that she saw in her county. And man, she's paid dearly for it. She's a grandmother. She's never had any problems with the law in her entire life before this. And President Trump has pressured Polis, that's the governor. He's done all that he can to really affect the change there that needs to happen. Look, to me, whether she's guilty or not is for the courts and the jury to decide. And they said she was guilty. I personally don't agree with that, but I do respect the courts on that, right? But you know what? To me, sometimes we get these political agendas at the helm and we make a sentence that's way too harsh for what the issue is. For somebody like Tina, a first offense, even if you say she's guilty, a grandmother that's elderly now. I mean, she's, I think, 70 years old or in that range, 60, something. For her to be in prison just doesn't make any sense. She's not a harm to anyone around her, etc. Her lawyer, Peter Tickton, anticipates a potential commutation soon for Tina. And I'm praying for that. I want freedom for Tina. I want freedom for the folks in Iran. The Senate failed to pass the War Powers Resolution. Rand Paul was the one and others pushing it, but it was along partisan lines and it got shut down. Now the House is expected to vote on similar efforts to rein in Trump's powers. I've had an issue with the constitutionality of what Trump did because I think he needs to go to Congress. That's just my opinion. But now that we've already crossed that bridge, hey, there's no way to go back, right, folks? Let's be very clear. There's no way to go back. What's done's done. Now what I'm praying for, hoping for, advocating for, working on is we really want freedom for the people in Iran. And we certainly want to make sure that countries who have hatred towards America or a contrary agenda towards America, we don't want them to control Iran. That's for sure, whether it be communist China or some type of Muslim factions, as Arash pointed to. We don't want them to control Iran. So I pray that Trump and the Trump administration are successful. I pray that the Iranian people can, gird up their loins, if you will, and battle for freedom. Trump has encouraged them to do so. And I really want freedom. Now, Mike Pence says history will record that Trump made the right call. I pray that's true. And I will say this, though. I mean, Arash highlighted something that I didn't know. There's not just a standard, we as America want this to happen in Iran. Wow, I don't know why I keep saying Iraq. In Iran. Because I thought that Mike Pence and all the American people would be kind of on the same side of this. We want freedom. The problem is there's a group called MEK or whatever that Pence is pushing for. That's not what Arash believes we should push for. Arash believes there's a different leader that we need to push for. So again, this is part of my problem with some of this stuff. It's very difficult for Americans to understand the overseas factions and these different countries and who's on whose side who. And that's part of the reason that it's so difficult to understand. But I am absolutely grateful for the education that Arash Ayrom brought to the table here. He's an award-winning filmmaker and editor, and I think he's going to be putting together some films that can help us kind of understand more what's going on there too. He's a freedom advocate. He has a website for his business that I didn't mention when he was on. I wish I had, but I wanted him to be able to say as much as he could say in the time that we had. That's why I even skipped the last break last hour. Cataclysmoinc.com is his website if you want to check out his business. And if you need some filmmaking services, this guy's a professional. He knows what's going on, and he can do things very inexpensively. Anyway, he shared his powerful journey from Tehran, Iran, to the United States. He's a freedom advocate, and he's, his story's riveting. He fled during the 1979 coup there. Arash is now using his talents, and think about this for an immigrant. We usually hear negative things about immigrants. Sadly, so it's been very politically charged. But think about this. This immigrant, Arash, is using his incredible talents to defend liberty and to promote individual freedoms through creative storytelling and powerful visual media. He works with us at Loving Liberty. That's how I know him. And he's putting together this incredible Ask an Immigrant series. It's going to be like a television episode series based on seasons. It's also going to be a podcast. And the whole goal is to talk about immigration in a way that brings people together, in a way that says, hey, you know what? You need to come the right way. But there's some system problems with coming the right way. People who want to come the right way really have a tough time. It takes years sometimes. People who come the wrong way come instantly, but yet many of them wreak havoc on the system. How do we reward the good guys and bring them into the country and take advantage of folks that are using their talents like Arash to defend liberty and promote individual freedom and to tell stories and to educate and to promote? I mean, he's eloquent. He's an artistic genius, and he's in love with America and our ideals, our principles. He would love that to go to Iran, and so would I. His work with liberty-based organizations has been tremendous. He's been around for quite a while. He's worked with FEE. That's the Foundation for Economic Education. He's worked with them. He's worked with Freedom Fest, which is a Mr. Skousen event that happens yearly, highlighting economics and investments and all that kind of stuff at Freedom Fest. He's also been involved in Archbridge Institute. It highlights his passion for truth and, most importantly, for human dignity. That's something really important, too, that I think is important. And, he basically says, hey, the Kurds, nice people, they've been abused and wronged, too, and hopefully they can create an alliance that can make a difference for liberty. And I pray for success there. Again, there's a time and a season for things, ladies and gentlemen. And, when Trump does something that we believe is, ill-advised, it's important to highlight from an ideal point of view the constitutional reality. Hey, he should have got congressional support for this. Okay? But then there's a time when, you know what? The horse is already out of the barn, folks. It's not time to argue that the gate was left open or whatever. It's time now to say, hey, how do we get the horse back safe? How do we, so I want to look forward about this. And I will look forward with solutions and hope and prayers for everybody in the world to have freedom. And I want the countries that back liberty, promote freedom, to prosper. And I want the countries that don't back liberty and freedom and autonomy for countries and self-government, if you will, or self-governance on a national level, I want those countries to fade away. I would love the Constitution, the supreme law of our land, to be the greatest export we have. I'd love to be a light on a hill to set an example and teach countries how to be free. I think the people in Iran yearn for freedom, and my blessing is with them for that. But at the same time, I think that, we in America need an education to learn how to embrace and preserve liberty. And I think people in other countries need a super education on that too, because they haven't had it. And we got to make sure once they get it that they don't, unintentionally obviously, but throw it away. And that's really an important thing to consider as well. Anyway, I digress. I just wanted to really highlight that because I think that's something that's on my heart and mind. How do we unite the country now and say, hey, let's get this done. Let's get this done quickly. Trump says it'll take about 30 days, but now he says it's going quicker than he thought it would. I pray it goes quicker. I pray our men and women in harm's way. And I pray for liberty for the Iranian people, that they can get freedom. And I hope it takes less time. I don't know the obstacles. I don't know enough about the details. I do believe that in some ways we claim this is about Israel, and Israel's leading the United States around by the nose. And, that's a tempting thing to believe, and it may be true. It may have been true in the past. But as many people are saying, they don't believe that's true with this President Trump effort for Iran. It's more about making sure that other countries don't control Iran and turn that very strategic location against us. That's what it's really about. Many are saying that, and I think they've got a lot of value to those points. All right, I'm Sam Bushman. You're watching and listening to Liberty Roundtable Live.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcasts at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
Scott Bradley here. Most Americans are painfully aware that the nation is on the wrong track and in dire straits. Unfortunately, most political pundits only nibble around the edges when they claim to address the issues. Even worse, many of the so-called solutions are simply rewarmed servings of what got us into the mess we currently face. And the politicians think we're so gullible and naive that we'll buy their lies that they have reformed, and now understand where they led us astray. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that they simply wish to continue to hold power. The solution to America's challenges is found in returning to the timeless principles found in the United States Constitution. My book and lecture series will reawaken in Americans an understanding and love of the principles which made this nation the freest, most prosperous, happiest, and most respected nation on earth. Visit topreservethenation.com and order my book and lectures to begin the restoration of this great nation.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. There's so much in the news, it's hard to know what to talk about. But, there's discussion on the war, on what's happening in Iran, what's going on across the country is very, very riveting. And sadly, it's kind of sucking all the air out of the room, so to speak. I think it's important, but I also think oftentimes there are other topics. There's a big discussion about healthcare still going on in America, too, for everybody to kind of realize and think about. In healthcare, the healthcare costs have just skyrocketed. Obamacare is kind of the discussion or whatever else. I used to have healthcare. I used to have an insurance plan. And believe it or not, my premiums literally went up 70%. And I had to just drop my health care, my health care plan or whatever, my insurance, because I just can't afford it. But there's a lot of discussions about the fact that you only get 5 minutes with a doctor, right? They say specialists don't communicate. Your medication list grows, gets confusing. You're left wondering, is this normal or are things about to get worse? There's a idea, this focus kind of on a foundation of wellness care, and I think that that's really where we need to talk about. RFK Jr. is involved in this. A lot of people are involved in these discussions. Who's monitoring someone's health between appointments? People are wondering that if they're on Medicare, Medicaid, etc. The answer for most, nobody, unless you're doing it yourself. Okay? You don't need more rushed visits. What you need is an organized system that kind of keeps track of things and helps you keep on top of it. That's where wellness care comes in, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you're familiar with a term called a DPC, but it stands for direct primary care. And a DPC is a different kind of health idea. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but these DPCs are all over the country. In my humble opinion, they're phenomenal. They really are. And a direct primary care system is here's what they do. They say, you're going to pay us monthly, a nominal fee. So let's just say that it's $125 a month for your whole family. And then the DPC says, you can come to our clinic or our DPC, our direct primary care facility, and you can get checkups. You can get x-rays. You can get, like strep throat tests, or someone to test for the flu, someone to test for this and that. And they will do all those things for you for free. And that way, hey, you don't get nickeled and dimed. Or sometimes there's a tiny copay of $10 when you go in. But it takes away this expensive, I got to go to the ER all the time. And many of these facilities, not only are they direct primary care facilities, but many of them are kind of like urgent care kind of thing. They kind of bridge the gap between ER and the doctor. So that you don't have to schedule an appointment with the doctor and wait forever. Oftentimes they have ideas where just, come in. You have to wait in a line a little bit sometimes, but usually it's not too long. And these direct primary care really is kind of your first line of defense. Oftentimes they even have a call a doctor option, which is free. If you go in, sometimes there's a small copay, but if you, do the teledoctor, you can get some guidance for free. And oftentimes the first thing they provide really is peace of mind. If you've got something and you're like, geez, I want to make sure this isn't something worse, you can go in and they can say, nope, you've just got the flu. Nope, you've just got the stomach flu. It's going around, and every symptom, we've tested all your vital signs. We've done this, that. Or if you need a cast or you need something, hey, is it really broken? Just not sure. You can get an x-ray. So they're kind of the first line of defense for peace of mind. But they're also the first line of defense to give you care very inexpensively, quickly, easily. But remember, and this is the key to a direct primary care physician or a DPC kind of scenario, this wellness care idea. They get paid $125 a month or $100 a month or whatever it is, $60 a month for a person, or, it just depends on the facility. They're all different around the country. There's a lot of direct primary care facilities. DPCs is what they're called. But they get paid whether you come in or not. And you think, oh man, that's not good. Why do I have to pay them if I don't come in? Because that's how they're keeping the costs down. Okay? That's how they're keeping the costs down. But they're also aligned with you in making sure that you stay well. Because just imagine if I'm a group of doctors that run a DPC, direct primary care facility, and I get $100 a month from, thousands of families. I'm getting paid a lot of money, or good money. And if I can keep my clinics pretty much free, where nobody's there, now I know that's not a perfect reality, but that's the goal, the idea, because everybody's so well, then man, I can take off the rest of the day. I can go golfing. I don't have to have 4 doctors there. I can have 2 on call all the time because they've managed people's care so well. And so they're highly interested in this between visits care. They're highly interested in making sure that when you leave, you have the right answers to stay well. Because the more they're aligned with you to do that, the better your care will be. What wellness care does for you, it does a lot, right? You get check-ins to keep falling through the cracks. If there's something wrong, you have a place to go to get quick answers to make sure that it's not something worse than you thought it was, right? You have light consultation by phone or by text or by coming in. That way you don't have to wait and go, oh man, I don't want to go to the doctor. It's too expensive. You can go in for pennies. But their goal is to make sure that you don't need to come in. They're aligned with you in keeping you well. It's tremendous. They can review your medications with you. They can give you options for something. Hey, if I've got this or that, or what do I do about it? They can give you some early warning detection for things if you go to them, because you don't have this big stigma of, man, I can't go to the ER and spend $2,000 on, or I can't go to my doctor. I can never get in or whatever. These emergency care facilities or urgent care systems you can just walk in whenever the need arises. They've got better hours than a doctor's office because they're urgent care. So oftentimes they're open from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., a full 12 hours. They're open on Saturdays and Sundays oftentimes because they're urgent care. And they're blended with this DPC idea, right? Your wellness team watches for common flags for you. Unexpected swelling, dizziness, blood sugar levels. They kind of do a lot of that kind of stuff. There's coordination where they can refer you to a specialist if needs be. So oftentimes if you need a specialist for something, you have to go into your doctor. It's really expensive. They do an intake. Man, I haven't been to the doctor in 2 years. Well, they're your primary care physicians. And so they can recommend you for a specialist if you need one without a big rigmarole or hassle. They coordinate between a lot of different family caregivers and everything else. They help people kind of stay up to speed and spend the time. A simple written plan they put together oftentimes that you can understand. They build you a personal care plan with goals if you're overweight or if you've got this or that problem. Their goal is to keep you well, remember? And so they'll spend the time to put together a plan that makes sense for you. Anyway, most programs do one of two things, right? Hand you a brochure, wish you some luck, or require most clinic visits, or require you to come back and back and back, or it's really hard to get in. See, the DPC says, no, that's not how we operate. We want to keep you well. We want to make it where you can come in anytime. It's built around one simple idea, folks. Consistent human follow-up, easy access to the doctor, or somebody who can look at things for you. There's no more of this, I don't dare go to the doctor, I got to hold off. You just say, you know what, I'm going to go check it out, make sure it's all cool. And oftentimes they find things quickly that solve problems for you. I'm going to give you an example. They even deal with ongoing medical conditions in the DPCs. And so their goal is to say, hey, you know what, if this or that's the problem, here's what we want to do to improve things for you. So you're looking at your healthcare, not just going, when I get sick, I'll go to the doctor. It's more like, hey, I want to watch my health all the time. And I want to do my very best to stay well. And it gives you a partner in doing so. Some people feel like I'm alone on an island managing my health. Now I've got someone to kind of partner with me on a wellness plan, right? Anyway, I think that they're tremendous. Just tremendous, these direct primary care facilities. Look for one near you. It's your first line of healthcare defense. A quick story to wrap up this segment on healthcare, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I had a problem with my foot. The arch just seemed to keep breaking down in my foot. I'm just like, what the heck? And my foot was sore and it affected my leg and I could hardly walk around. And I went to this direct primary care thing, paid $10, went down, talked to them. They said, you know what I think your problem is? You don't have good shoes. And at first I kind of laughed and went, whatever. But I thought, you know what? I'm in pain. I'm going to take what they have to say. And I did. They said, you know what? Go buy these shoes. And they didn't give me an exact kind of shoe to buy. They just said these brands have incredible arches and they're meant to deal with these things. And so I went and bought some really nice shoes with great arches. And believe it or not, my problem went away. And I've been wearing these good shoes, these recommended shoes ever since. And man, I've never had a problem since. It cost me $10 for that guidance to go in, let them see the deal, make their recommendations. I took their recommendations. And, a lot of times when they make recommendations, we just turn up our nose and think they don't know, whatever. But the funny thing is, I went in later, 6 months, a year later, with one of my kids. And he looked down at my feet because it was the same guy. And he goes, you took my advice. Because he saw that I had good shoes on. I said, you know what? I did, and I've never had a problem since. So I'm telling you, these direct primary care facilities are incredible. You ought to try them or consider them. They're aligned with you in wellness care. It's epic. It's an opportunity. RFK Jr., many others are advocating for this. It's the new frontier, baby, but it's been around longer than you think, but it's very cool. All right, we'll talk more in seconds. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. Arash Ayrom. The Iran war rages on.
Iran has launched a new wave of attacks on Thursday morning at Israeli and American bases, while Israel said it had begun a large-scale attack on Tehran as Israeli and Iranian strikes in the Middle East commence for a sixth day. Plumes of smoke were seen rising across various parts of Tehran on Thursday morning as US-Israeli airstrikes continued to pound the Iranian capital. The Islamic Republic threatened that the United States would bitterly regret torpedoing an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean on Wednesday. Iran is launching more missiles at Israel, as Israel said it was moving to intercept them. The Israeli military has also confirmed its continuing strikes in Lebanon against the Iranian-backed Hezbollah militant group.
Correspondent Karen Chamis. The House set to vote today on a resolution to halt military action unless it's approved by Congress.
Thursday's roll call will offer a snapshot of the support or opposition in Congress for the widening conflict that's reordering U.S. priorities at home and abroad. It's the second vote in as many days after the Senate defeated a similar measure along party lines Wednesday. Lawmakers are confronting the sudden reality of representing the nation in wartime and all that entails, with lives lost, dollars spent, and alliances tested by our president's decision to go to war with Iran. Republicans largely back the war while Democrats oppose, but there are splinters in both parties. Bernie Bennett, Washington.
The number of Americans applying for unemployment last week unchanged from the week before. Jobless claims for the week ending February 28th matched the previous week's 213,000. Following yesterday's gains, sell-off this morning on Wall Street. The Dow is down 610 points, while the Nasdaq is off 39, and the S&P 34 points in the red. More on these stories, townhall.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-0141. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever have a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt, and there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at cspoa.org. That's cspoa.org.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman on your radio, TV. We're just about everywhere. LibertyRoundTable.com, LovingLiberty.net. We're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. We're on Truth Social. We're just about everywhere. Lindell's network as well, Lindell TV. Anyway, hopefully you can find us, and hopefully you can spread the word and help others learn about Liberty Roundtable Live as well. The FBI and law enforcement now are warning, they're on high alert following strikes on Iran. And the reason I bring this up right now, folks, is I really want people to think about this. We need to pray for America too. You know, I don't want anything to go down on the homeland during this situation. And so we all need to be super vigilant. And we all need to pray for America and pray for our law enforcement that they can keep us safe, that we can, make sure that everything is well. Operation, what they call this thing, Epic Fury is what the United States is calling it. Israel's calling it Operation Roaring Lion. It launched February 28th, last Saturday, and it's been going on for, I think, 6 days now, they say. And, Trump says that they're much further along. I sure pray so, because I'd like it to end. But I also don't want it to end before we do the job, okay? I was the guy that was concerned constitutionally about doing this in the first place. We've already done it. Let's move on. And as we move on, I want to pray for America. I want to pray for the Iranians. I want to pray for anybody that's in harm's way. The U.S. military, folks, has already deployed over 50,000 troops, 200 plus fighter jets, 2 aircraft carriers and bombers. Wow. As part of Operation Epic Fury against Iran. But I want to be really clear, because I think Arash made this very clear. It's not against the Iranian citizenry or the people in Iran. It's really the Iran government that's been commandeered by foreign powers. That's the concern. And I think it's a valid point. I really do. They're going to bring more capabilities to the theater on the way, if you will. That's according to, and I don't know this guy, but it's Brad Cooper. He's the admin over there or whatever. He's the commander of the U.S. Central Command, and he's kind of laying out these details. And it's really important to understand that this is serious. And I know it sounds like, hey, we put tons of military hardware into this. I understand that we have. But if we're going to do it, I would agree with President Trump. Let's get it done. Let's deploy. Let's make it quick. Hopefully we can make it surgical and painless. These forces bring a massive amount of firepower, representing the largest buildup by the U.S. in the Middle East in a generation. But understand, folks, that this is in response to the massive buildup by the Communist Chinese. Okay, they're trying to make Iran their forward-looking base, so to speak. They realize what a strategic, in real estate, you hear location, location, location. They realize what a strategic position Iran is in. And so, it's true that Congress should support us. And I'm disappointed that they don't. But I will also say Trump realizes this serious strategic positioning. Trump is a real estate man. He knows location, location, location like nobody's business, right? And so he understands. Anyway, they say that we've already struck over 2,000 targets with more than 2,000 munitions. We have severely degraded Iran's air defenses and destroyed hundreds of their, they call them ballistic missiles, and the launchers that launch their missiles, and their drones. We've kind of taken that. that we've sunk their boats so they don't have a navy anymore. Our B-2 bombers and B-1 bombers have executed uncontested surgical strikes against their missile facilities. They've basically been able to attack command and control posts so that they destroy communications. And they've also sunk the total Iranian Navy, which is over 17 ships. The Iranian regime, which has harassed international shipping for decades, now does not have a single ship in the Iranian Gulf. Strait of Hormuz, or the Gulf of Oman, I think is how you say it. Anyway, I'm just not an expert at these names. Sorry, people. The admiral said that U.S. forces will continue to hunt down Iran's last remaining mobile ballistic missile launchers to remove the regime's lingering, quote, launch capability. According to Cooper, that's this Brad Cooper admiral guy, the Iranian regime has launched more than 500 ballistic missiles and over 2,000 drones in retaliatory attacks. I guess they're indiscriminately targeting civilians as well. The regime's ability to hit the United States and the United States partners is declining every second. So, there's a lot of discussion about this, folks. And I'm the guy that, is very concerned about our Constitution, our rule of law. I don't want to be involved in these quagmires. Arash, last hour that I talked about this, basically talked about, hey, he doesn't think it's this way. He thinks it's different. And I pray that he's right. I think sadly we've kind of become jaded in America, where presidents have led us into these, I don't want to say not winnable, but they almost put our troops in harm's way like they did in Vietnam, where it's not winnable because we tie the hands of our troops and then we say, you got to be there. I'm not for putting our men and women in harm's way under those conditions. And I pray this is really different. The Trump administration officials, though, and I think this was brought up when I was talking to James Edwards about this on yesterday's program, the Trump administration officials are considering using the Defense Production Act as the war with Iran depletes U.S. munitions. So the problem is that we don't have a great way to restock our supplies, so to speak. And I hate to see us be weakened by using all of our munitions. The act, they say, would compel U.S. firms to prioritize manufacturing specific weapons. Now, U.S. military stockpiles are dwindling or declining rapidly, posing a risk of soon having to select which targets to intercept. Now, the White House and the Pentagon publicly assert that the military's stockpile levels are adequate. And I pray that they're adequate. Okay, I really do. Not that I want war. I'm not a war guy. But I also understand that we're already here. And so I'm going to pray for everybody. I'm going to pray that we get it done quickly and very strategically and surgically, that, innocents don't die in the process. I know these evil people put, their fight facilities with innocents and civilians and hospitals and schools and everything else, so they can always claim that we're attacking the wrong people. That's very difficult to navigate from a media point of view. I'll be the first to say. CNN claims they're the first group to go in and be on the ground there in Iran. I don't know that I trust CNN's reporting, folks, either. So I'd listen to President Trump way more than I'd listen to CNN. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. But other people are starting to report on this too, and hopefully we can get some real intel out of Iran and know what's really going on. They say, many people say, could we use letters of marque and reprisal to capture Maduro? And could we use that in this case too? If Congress was willing, I think we could. And I think it could make it much more of a surgical takeout of wicked people that have really been repressing the people in Iran for a long time, since 79, from what I understand. And I don't know how much reporting we get that's true on either side of the discussion. But when I hear people from Iran, I got an email from another person that I don't even know, who basically said, hey, I had to leave in 79. I'm an American now, and I'm an American citizen, and I'm so grateful that I was able to flee and receive asylum and safety. That's just like Arash's story, right? But then they say, and hey, this is an opportunity for the Iranian people to become free. And I pray that's true. I pray that's right. And I pray for their success. Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. So anyway, there's a lot to all this, folks, and there's a lot of conflicting reporting that we're getting. And I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know if our munitions are going to be dangerously low. The White House and the Pentagon say we have the stockpiles are adequate. I pray they're enough. I don't know what adequate means, but I want to make sure that not only do we have enough munitions to take care of this and get the job done that we're there to do. I really want President Trump to be more clear about what needs to happen here, because the more we can use people like Arash and others to educate what's going on, and more like President Trump, the more then we can set ourselves up at the midterm to say, hey, this was necessary. Anyway, we'll talk about that more. All right, you're watching Liberty Roundtable Live.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Free Water Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began. Free Water, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Free Water Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Free Water Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Free Water Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
Get ready to be part of something incredible. We're breaking barriers and delivering the powerful stories that mainstream media won't touch. Your support is what fuels our mission to revolutionize journalism and bring you the truth. Join our passionate community of changemakers by donating at libertynewsradio.com today. Together, we're creating the future of news.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman on your radio. Hope you're doing fantastic. There's so much going on in the news. It's hard to know what to focus on, folks. Right? What about free speech? What about the question of civility? That's a question. Anyway, I don't even know where to focus. We had a great show with Wilk Wilkinson, though. Director of Media Systems and Operations over at braverangels.org. And that's a group that I'm just fascinated with, folks. He's the creator and host of the Durate the Hate podcast, duratethehate.com. And it's great. Durate is basically an engineering term to slow things down or to reduce the speed of. If you durate the rate of flow in water, you're slowing down the flow of water. And Wilk Wilkinson is a devoted husband, a loving father, a steadfast Christian conservative. He's the insightful host of the Durate the Hate podcast. Anyway, his journey through life has been marked by resilience. He grew up poor. He grew up in a situation where he kind of half had to raise himself. And anyway, we want to turn the power down on purpose, folks, in many ways when it comes to hate and when it comes to the conflict in America. And that's really why, just so everybody understands, that I want people to think I've just totally changed my view on the war. I still don't like war. I'm still against war. And I think we all should be. We should want peace. But I'm also realizing that, hey, we're already in this thing. I hope we get freedom for the Iranians. I hope we can protect America in the process. Well, President Trump's 2026 State of the Union address. You know, he talked a lot about great things in that State of the Union. And I want to go back to that because I think it was one of the greater speeches we've had. Was it perfect? No. But was it tremendous in bringing people together? I think it could have been if we weren't so polarized. And I wish we would have had success. We're one nation under God, ladies and gentlemen, and Donald Trump highlighted that, mentioned God multiple times. And he ended by saying, God bless you and God bless America. I love that. The question is, are we humble enough to choose it? One nation under God? I pray the answer is a resounding yes. Okay. President Trump's groundbreaking State of the Union speech resonated with more than 6 in 10 prime time viewers. Believe it or not, that's even according to a CNN poll. Even they were forced to admit the truth, that it went really well. You know, President Trump says we're on a golden age, or we're experiencing a golden age in America. I pray that's true. I pray we can turn down the conflict. I pray we can humbly advocate for peace, for prosperity. I want to make America great again. I'm glad we got rid of some of these criminal cartel leaders in Mexico. I pray that it does not turn into a civil war in Mexico. I pray that we can kind of tamp that down and shut down the cartels. I mean, I agree with President Trump. They are terrorist-type organizations. I pray for freedom for the people in Cuba. Also, you know, that's kind of an interesting twist as Trump chops off oil and support for some of these regimes and evil people. Hey, man, people have been fleeing Cuba for decades, right? So I want freedom for Cuba and freedom around the world. I just don't know if we're biting off more than we can chew with a lot of these fronts we're opening up. I pray we have the wherewithal for stability and to make sure that we finish the job. Oftentimes, if we're not careful, if we, take somebody out or whatever the current structure is in a given country, if we're not careful, we kind of take out somebody, and then if we don't finish the job, then somebody worse gets in power or somebody worse takes over. I pray that doesn't happen in all these places we're talking about. By the way, I went to the Salem event. We haven't been able to talk much about this, but I went to the NRB. That's the National Religious Broadcasters Convention or event. It happens annually. This time it was in Nashville, Tennessee. And man, Nashville's a fun place. It's a cool place, really cool place. A lot of music everywhere. I was able to walk down a street, and I mean, there were bars all around me. But in these bars, it's not just bars. A lot of times they have food, and a lot of them have live music. And I was able to stand in one spot on the street and hear like 6 or 7 bands playing from different locations all around me. It was really something. And those of you who haven't been to Nashville, you're missing out on something pretty great. They have a lot of good food there. They have the Grand Ole Opry there. I mean, it was a tremendous thing. I've been to that once. I'd love to go again. But I also went to the Salem Breakfast, and they did some great stuff at the Salem Breakfast that I haven't had a chance to catch everybody up on either. At the Salem Breakfast, they presented the 2026. They call it the Stewart Emerson Award. They gave it to Dr. David Jeremiah. And Dr. David Jeremiah, if you're not familiar with him, is a Christian broadcaster. He started out very humble, but man, he's really done great in the media for Christian views. He's talked to people and worked with people and interviewed some of the great people. He's worked with Focus on the Family and Salem and many of these Christian groups and just done a tremendous job in all that he does. And so Salem Media announced during the Salem Summit Breakfast at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, Anyway, I guess David Jeremiah is the pastor. He's in his 80s now and everything. But it's Excellence in Christian Media. David Jeremiah, senior pastor of Shadow Mountain Community Church. And he's also the founder of Turning Point Ministries. Now, I want you to understand that Turning Point Ministries is different than Turning Point USA. They're totally different groups. I like both of them, Turning Point USA and Turning Point Ministries. But anyway, Dr. David Jeremiah spoke and really was gracious, and he was interviewed by one of the Salem leaders about his incredible career as a teacher of Christian values all around the world and the efforts they've been making. The award was established in 2024, and it honors the legacy of Salem co-founder and longtime chairman Stewart Emerson. He passed away in July 2023, but Emerson co-founded Salem Media back in 1974, folks, with his brother, I guess brother-in-law, I should say, Edward G. Atzinger the third, Edward G. Atzinger the third, building what would become a media, Christian, and conservative juggernaut. I'm just a huge company. And I really want to commend them for the awards they gave out. The breakfast was tremendous. They talked about Adventures in Odyssey, which is a production of Focus on the Family, and they played a little clip because Adventures in Odyssey has been a radio series for decades. When I owned a radio station from 1996 to 2006, for a decade, I started getting into syndicated radio and all that kind of stuff. In 96 as well. So I sold my local station. But the point is, I used to carry Adventures in Odyssey, this children's program. John Avery Whitaker is kind of the main guy who owns an ice cream shop, and children rally around that ice cream shop, and you learn lessons of faith over fear, of, keeping your word, of honesty, of all these principles that relate to morality. And it's a fun radio series. Well, now they're starting to add some video to this, doing the video series. It's more cartoonish in the video series and everything else, but it's a lot of fun, and it was great to listen to. They're just great radio theater kind of things. And so they had the Focus on the Family gal there who was presenting this new series that they're putting on. We got to see a preview of that, so expect that to come out. Look for Adventures in Odyssey. Anyway, I'm just telling you, there's some great radio for children that I was able to discover while I was at that Religious Broadcasters, the NRB, National Religious Broadcasters event. There's an adventures series that we're going to be bringing to the table on Loving Liberty. There's just a lot of cool things that we're able to discover, and we saw some Christian youth groups that are kind of like the Boy Scouts, but of course Christian-based, outdoors for boys. That was very interesting. We talked to a lot of Christian groups that were promoting the Bible around the world, and they've got some of these unique players to do so. Anyway, there's a lot of interviews that are going to be up and coming that I'm going to be doing relating to a lot of this, that it's just cool stuff, in my opinion. Good people, anxiously engaged in a good cause, literally, spending their days just trying to make a difference, trying to share the Word of God, trying to share the teachings of Jesus Christ, promoting morality and education, and doing so in very fun, creative ways to help people learn the gospel, to help people. Anyway, I talked to some companies that publish books and some companies that provide author coaching and all that kind of stuff. So I'm able to hopefully tap into one of these author coaches as I finish my book. Just some great stuff going on that I wanted to kind of give you guys a little behind the scenes, all of my radio listeners, behind the scenes of what's coming up on Liberty Roundtable Live, radio and TV. Just great stuff. Thank heavens for the Loving Liberty Radio Network that's making all this possible. They're our syndicator, and they just do tremendous. Check out the C.L. Bryant Show. We've launched that show. Check out the Ask an Immigrant Show. We're launching that, too. We've just got our hands full of great projects, and it's all because of you, the listener. and your support. LovingLiberty.net. Donate liberally. It's the only time I believe in being liberal, by the way. As much as you can, would you please? LovingLiberty.net. I'm Sam Bushman. Thanks to everyone that produces this show. They're behind the scenes, but they deserve a big thank you and credit as well. And I'm Sam Bushman. God save the Republic of the United States of America.